you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Ramadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhati Vallabha Girivanadhati Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhati Yatsoda Randana Vrajagana Ranjana Yatsoda Randana Vrajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachadi Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Java Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhati Vallabha Girivanadhati Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhati Jana Vallabha Girivanadhati Yatsoda Nandana Vrajagana Nandana Vrajagana Yasura Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Nanda Vrajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavacharya Satarya Satyashishi Mad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gauda Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki ISKCON founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gol Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapurdam ki, Navadvipdam ki, Jamuna Mai ki, Ganga Mai ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Shishi Radha Golokananda ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gora Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jaya. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 24, Madhya Lila, the 61 explanations of the Atmaram verse. And his instructions here, we're on 96. And I'm going to go back to 94 just to keep everything. 94, I'll just read the translation. O best of among bards, Arjuna, 4 kinds of pious men render devotional service unto me: the distress, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. That's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, 16. 95, materialistic devotees take to devotional service and worship Krishna when they are distressed or in need of money. Those who are actually inquisitive to understand the supreme source of everything, and those who are in search of knowledge are called transcendentalists, for they desire liberation from all material contamination. So liberation is used, this word, differently. Often we see it in association with Mayavadis. This is a type of liberation they want to achieve. And for Vaishnavas in our disciplic line have no desire for liberation. They want to have service in the Radha and Krishna. Of course, we mentioned that already, that the definition given is in the chapter, Canto 2, chapter 10, text 6, is that permanent situation where we give up our material body and our subtle bodies. That's when we're transcended the modes of material nature. So that definition is given. So here we have that they have desire, liberation, and majority of the time that's what it is. We have a very minute period of time in the day of Brahma when this is not the case. 99% of the time it's worshiping Narayan and all the other 999 Kali Yugas in one day of Brahma. So 96. Because they have a pious background, all 4 types of people are to be considered greatly fortunate. Such people gradually give up the material desires and become pure devotees. One who is elevated on the platform of devotional life by the mercy of a Vaishnava, a bona fide spiritual master, and by the special mercy of Krishna. On that platform, one gives up all material desires and associates with, on that platform, one gives up all material desires and association of unwanted people. Thus, he is elevated to the platform of pure devotional service. So that's the dividing platform begins when one agrees to follow the rules and regulations and takes an initiation. That's when the Vaidhi platform actually begins. So, and then here Prabhupada Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions it, the mercy of the Vaishnavas, the bona fide spiritual master, and by the special mercy of Krishna. So we get all this working for us if we stay in the association of devotees. If you leave the association of devotees, then you start eliminating some of the benefits. Of course, the spiritual master, I was just reading, Prabhupada was saying there's two types of instructing spiritual master. We have initiating spiritual master. Two types of instruction spiritual master, and that's the one who's practicing the process, and then there's the one that's liberated. So you have a nityas, and Bhaktisiddhanta talks about three types of spiritual masters. You have kanista, majjhamam, and uttamam, and there's basically beginning, middle, and the topmost. And which makes sense, just like, of course, I recently heard like Shiva Ram talk about in this whole conflict about, the different types of gurus recently who can be. But he talked about in ISKCON, it's primarily a Vaidhi platform. Krishna's introducing Krishna consciousness to people. It's like to introduce Krishna. That's our primary function, is preaching, and Krishna is primarily on the Vaidhi platform because it's a preaching organization. And in that organization, like he says, we have our spiritual masters, our practitioner gurus. And of course, he was trying to say that, because of that, should women be practitioner gurus, which I didn't really get the argument. I didn't really agree with his argument. I didn't think, I didn't buy into it, basically. I mean, we're practitioners. Anybody can be a spiritual master, especially on that platform. Everybody's a practitioner, and everybody can preach, and everybody can help somebody. So Prabhupada also made this comment that we also have these superior guidance. So we have this ultima, like Bhaktisiddhanta says, we have this uttama platform. These are primarily nityasiddhas or rasika devotees. So we have, and we can see that here in the case by the special mercy of Krishna. This third, we got the mercy of Vaishnavas, the bona fide spiritual master, and the mercy of Krishna. So that comes in these three forms. Okay, so 98. The intelligent who have understood the Supreme Lord in the association of pure devotees and have become free from bad materialistic association can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard them only once. Purport. In this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 10, Text 11, all the members of the Kuru dynasty offer respects when Krishna was leaving Hastinapur after the battle of Kurukshetra. Krishna was going to his own kingdom. All the members of the Kuru dynasty were overwhelmed by his departure. This verse was spoken in that connection by Sutta Goswami. A pure devotee becomes attached to Krishna by hearing the Lord's glories. The Lord's glories and the Lord himself are identical. Thank you. One has to be qualified to understand this absolute truth. Therefore, one should be given a chance to associate with a pure devotee. Our Krishna conscious movement is meant for this purpose. We want to create pure devotees so that other people will benefit their association. In this way, the number of pure devotees increases. Professional preachers cannot create pure devotees. There are many professional preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam who read this work to earn their livelihood. However, they cannot convert materialistic people to devotional service. Only a pure devotee can convert others to pure devotional service. It is therefore important that all the preachers in our Krishna conscious movement to first become pure devotees and follow the regulated principles, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. They should regularly chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on their beads, follow the devotional process, rise early in the morning, attend Mangal Artik, and recite Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita regularly. In this way, one can become purified and freed from all material contamination. Svaropati virnirmuktam tat paradena nirmalam rishkena rishkesa sevanam bhaktir yache. That's Majjhalila 19, text 170. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all one's senses in the service of the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. That's Narada Pancharata. To make a show of devotional service will not help. One must be a pure devotee following the devotional process. Then one can convert others to devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practiced devotional service and preached Apani Achari Bhakti Karila Prachara. If a preacher behaves properly in devotional service, he will be able to convert others. Otherwise, his preaching will have no effect. 99. It's like save yourself, in a sense, first. We're on simultaneously doing both. It's like an airline says to put your mask on first before you help your children, So there's a method behind it. We can only help anybody up to the level we were at. So if we're just on the Shraddha, then we can help somebody up to that level. If we're up the Anartha Nivritti, if we're on the level of Nishta, we can help somebody come up to that level. If we're on, like I mentioned here previously, if we're on the a pure devotee, and we have bhakti or prema, then we can help somebody come up to that level. We can help somebody achieve prema, Krishna's mercy. We can introduce them to Krishna, right? A Nitya Siddha or a Rasika devotee. So based on where we're at. Okay, text 99. Cheating oneself and cheating others is called kaitava. Associating with those who cheat in this way is called dusanga, bad association. Those who desire things other than Krishna's service are also called dusanga, bad association. This bad association extends, subtly. We don't realize sometimes, especially social media. If you get hung up in social media and even the news organizations, if you get attached to one of these, this is all bad association. Because they primarily they're all spinning the news, no matter what they are. They're trying to create an audience, make money. They're all businesses. They're all organizations trying to hold on. And so they'll say, tend to attract people. So it's just primarily they're spreading hate. So that's also not the best association. That's also being in the category of bad association. Okay, 100. The great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled by Mahamuni Vyasadeva from 4 original verses, described the most elevated and kind-hearted devotees and completely rejects the cheating ways of material-motivated religiosity. It propounds the highest principle of eternal religion, which can factually mitigate the 3-mode miseries of a living being and award the highest benediction of full prosperity and knowledge. Those willing to hear the message of this scripture and a submissive attitude of service can be at once captured captured the Supreme Lord in their hearts. Therefore, there is no need for any other scripture than Srimad Bhagavatam. This quotation is from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1-2. And for a further explanation, Prabhupada says Adi Lita 191. Let's just see how long that purport is. It's real long. We'll just, so that's, read on your own. Home study. 101. The prefix pra in the word praojita specifically refers to those desiring liberation or oneness with the Supreme. Such a desire should be understood to be the foremost cheating propensity. The great commentator, Sridhar Swami, has explained this verse in that way. When merciful Lord Krishna understands that a foolish devotee desires material prosperity, he gratefully gives him the shelter of his lotus feet. In this way, the Lord covers the devotee's undesirable ambitions. That's pretty good. Whenever Krishna is requested to fulfill one's desires, he undoubtedly does so, but he does not award anything which, after being enjoyed, will cause one to petition him again and again to fulfill further desires. When one has other desires but engages in the Lord's service, Krishna forcibly gives one shelter at his lotus feet, where one will forget all other desires. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, Chapter 19, Text 27. And this is, I find myself in this position because I have all, my mind is all over the place. But because I'm properly situated, then I'm going to be awarded this protection. And that's the same for everybody. And it's like, of course, recently Ekanath Prabhu passed away. Of course, so did Ranjit in Alachua. And then, of course, Bhajanarayan Swami. But I knew Ranjit and Ekanath very, very well, and especially Ekanath. And so after he passed away, we read this verse about staying in association of devotees. You know, I realized that, you know, when you have friends like that, it's easy to stay in the association of devotees. So you make relationships with devotees, and then it helps you, you know, because if you have a negative attitude, it's going to be more difficult to maintain and create new relationships. Of course, as they're leaving, you got to create more, you know, unfortunately. So I was thinking along those lines, you know, and it's so important, as we know, as we even read here, that staying in the association is exactly a must if we want to make. If not, this is going to extend this thing who knows how long, because Krishna's going to help us. Even a person that leaves, he's going to help that person come back, especially if any kind of service that does. But okay, 104. One association with a devotee, the mercy of Krishna, and the nature of devotional service help one give up all undesirable association and gradually attain elevation to the platform of love of Godhead. Purport. This verse refers to the association of pure devotees, the mercy of Krishna, and rendering of devotional service. All these help one give up the association of non-devotees and the material opulence awarded by the external energy Maya. A pure devotee is never attracted by material opulence, for he understands that wasting time to acquire material opulence is a misuse of the gift of the human life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Shrama evahi kevalam, Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-8. In the eyes of a devotee, politicians, social workers, philanthropists, philosophers, humanitarians are simply wasting their time. For human society is not freed from the cycle of birth and death by their activity and propaganda. Those so-called philanthropists, politicians, and philosophers have no knowledge because they do not know that there is life after death. Understanding that there is life after death is the beginning of spiritual knowledge. A person can understand himself and what he is simply by understanding the first lessons of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 13. Dehi nosmin yata dehi kamaram yavanam jara tata dehantara praptir dirastatana muyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Not knowing the real science of life, a foolish person engages in the temporary activities of his life and thus becomes further entangled in the cycle of birth and death. He always desires material opulence, which can be attained by karma, jnana, and yoga. But when one is actually elevated to the devotional platform, he gives up all these desires. This is called anyabilasita sunya. Then one becomes a pure devotee. When I read this, a devotee should never be attached to material opulence. I was thinking about Narada Muni when he cursed, Kuvera sons, Nala Kuvera and Managriva. He explains later that in his appropriate text that of different opulences, wealth is the most difficult one to give up of all the different opulences. And he explains that their condition was, they were covered over by that to the extent that they were actually committed offenses in front of other people. It caused them to commit, in a puffed up situation. A higher understanding is that understanding that it actually belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. And Prabhupada's the best example of that, because, wealth is important. Spreading the movement, printing books, these types of activities, money's, that energy is necessary. But the difference is never thinking it belongs to you. Maintain that it belongs to Krishna, and that it shouldn't be wasted and should be used in his service. So 105. In this way I shall progressively explain all the words in the Atmaran verse. It should be understood that all these words are meant to enable one to taste the transcendental qualities of Krishna. I have given all these explanations just to give some indication of the verse's meaning. Now let me explain the real meaning of the verse. There are two kinds of worshipers on the path of philosophical speculation. One is called Brahma Upasaka, a worshiper of the impersonal Brahman. And the other is called Moksha Kansky, one who desires liberation. There are three types of people who worship the impersonal Brahman. The first is the beginner. The second is one whose thoughts are absorbed in Brahman. And the third is one who actually merged into the impersonal Brahman. One cannot attain liberation simply through philosophical speculation, devoid of devotional service. However, if one renders devotional service, he is automatically on the Brahman platform. This was also argument used by Haridas Thakur when he made this similar statement that just by performing devotional service, chanting, one can attain liberation. Characteristically, one in devotional service is attracted away from impersonal Brahman platform. He is offered a transcendental body to engage in the Lord's service. When one gets a devotee's spiritual body, he can remember the transcendental qualities of Krishna. Simply by being attracted to Krishna's transcendental qualities, one becomes a pure devotee engaged in his service. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given the following summary of verses 107 through 111. We just finished reading 111. Transcendentalists on the path of philosophical speculation can be divided into two categories: the pure worshippers of the impersonal Brahman, and those who wish to merge in the existence of impersonal Brahman. When one is fully absorbed in the thought that one is not different from the supreme absolute truth, one is said to be a worshipper of the impersonal Brahman. The impersonal worshippers of Brahman can again be divided into three categories: sadhakas, those who are nearing perfect execution of the process of Brahman realization; two, those who are fully absorbed in meditation on Brahman; and three, those who are on the Brahmabhuta platform. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 7:30, 20, 4:30, 20. And have no relationship with the material existence. Even though the worshiper of impersonal Brahman can be highly advanced, he cannot attain liberation without discharging devotional service. Anyone who has realized himself as spirit soul can engage in devotional service. This is the verdict of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 54. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na sochani na kasati sama sarvesha bhutesu mad bhaktam labhate param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service. To attain the platform of pure devotional service, one has to become spiritually pure and attain the Brahmabhuta platform, which is beyond material anxiety and material discrimination. When one approaches pure devotional service after realizing Brahman, one becomes attracted by pure devotional service. At such a time, by rendering devotional service, one gets a spiritual body with purified senses. Sarvo papi virmuktam tat paravena nirmalam rishike sevam bhaktir uyate. That's CC Madhya 19, text 170. When one's senses are pure, one can render love and devotional service to Krishna. A pure devotee can only remember Krishna's transcendental qualities. Remembering them, he fully engages in the loving service of the Lord. Text 112. Any comments? Anybody want to make a comment? Say anything? 112, yes.
Just to satisfy him, create monastery, he gets served as long as he lives. So they are worst class of people. No. And they are in the process of cheating others who have no knowledge. So they are very low class people. They are called so-called professional preachers, but they are very, very low class people.
Yeah. I think Madhava was making the point that these professional preachers are the biggest cheaters. Yeah. And of course, they only thinking about themselves. That's all they're motivated by, what they can get out of it, either some type of profit, adoration, and distinction. So, yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Text 112. Even a liberated soul merged in the impersonal Brahman effulgence is attracted to the pastimes of Krishna. He thus installs a deity and renders the Lord's service. Purport. Highly elevated Mayavadi sannyasis sometimes worship the Radha Krishna deity and discuss the pastimes of the Lord. But their purpose is not elevation to Goloka Vrindavan. They want to merge in the Lord's effulgence. This statement is quoted from Sankaracharya, commentary on the Upanishad known as Mashinga Tapani, 113. Although Sukadeva Goswami and the four Kumaras were always absorbed in the thought of the impersonal Brahman and were thus Brahmavadis, they were nonetheless attracted to the transcendental pastimes and qualities of Krishna. Therefore, they later became devotees of Krishna. The Kumaras, they smelled the tulsi leaf, and that's what attracted their mind. The minds of the four Kumaras were attracted by the aroma of flowers offered to Krishna's lotus feet. Being thus attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna, they engaged in pure devotional service. When a breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves and saffron from the lotus feet of the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead entered through the nostrils into their hearts of those sages, the Kumaras, they experienced a change in body and mind, even though they were attracted to the impersonal Brahman understanding. This verse is from Canto 3, Chapter 15, text 43, 116. By the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva, Sukadeva Goswami was attracted by the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Being thus attracted by Krishna's transcendental qualities, he also became a devotee and engaged in his service. Being very much attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, the mind of Srila Sukadeva Goswami was agitated by Krishna consciousness. He therefore began to study Srimad Bhagavatam by the grace of his father. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, text 11. From their very birth, the nine great mystic yogis, Yogindras, were impersonal philosophers of the absolute truth. But because they heard about Lord Krishna's qualities from Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the great sage Narada, they also became Krishna devotees. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a full description of the devotional service of the nine Yogindras, who rendered devotional service because they were attracted by the Lord's transcendental qualities. The nine Yogindras entered Lord Brahma's association and heard from him the real meaning of the topmost Vedic literatures, the Upanishads. Although the Yogindras were already conversant in Vedic knowledge, they became very jubilant in Krishna consciousness just by listening to Brahma. Thus they wanted to enter Dwarka, the abode of Lord Krishna. In this way they finally achieved the place known as Rangashetra. This is a quotation from Maha Upanishad, 121. Those who wish to merge into the impersonal Brahman are also divided into three categories: those desiring to be liberated, those already liberated, and those who have Brahman, realized Brahman. There are many people within the material world who desire liberation. For this purpose, they render devotional service to Lord Krishna. Those who want to be relieved from material clutches give up the worship of various demigods who have fearful bodily features. Such peaceful devotees who are not envious of the demigod, worship the different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Purport. This quotation is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 2, text 26. Those who actually want the highest perfection worship Lord Vishnu in his different incarnations. Those who are attracted to the materialistic way of life and who are always agitated and full of anxiety worship demigods and appear fierce. Demigods like goddess Kali and Kali Bhairava Rudra. The devotees of Krishna, however, do not envy demigods or their worshippers, but peacefully render devotional service to the incarnations of Narayan instead. I mean, we're very fortunate because right off the bat, Prabhupada said Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that he is a source of all incarnations. Because outside of the Vaishnava, our Sampradaya, it's the other way around. It's Narayan. Everybody worships the form of Narayan. And then you hear people say that Krishna is an expansion of Narayan. Because of course, that's what's preached 99% of the time, that Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all the other Kali Yugas, Krishna's not even known. He hasn't even manifested himself. So they take statements, which we mentioned earlier, that were Shri Dakshai Vishnu lying on the ocean of milk, pulls out a black hair and a white hair, and Brahma comes to see him. And he said, I will become, Krishna and Balaram. They take statements like that to support. This is another, devotees do it all the time. They take quotes from here and there, try to support their position, whether it's political or something. They'll try to gather those verses to support their arguments. And this is a verse that is abused and misused to say that they say that Krishna is emerged from Narayan. But we've read that Rupa Goswami defeated that concept, that's not the case, that Krishna is the source, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, he's the source of every incarnation, all Godhead. I think we're going to stop right there, unless somebody wants to have a comment or something. Text 124. Who was a devotee.
Yeah, Lord Vishnu is an incarnation of Krishna, and in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, he's preaching to them really heavily about Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
And then somehow, I guess.
And Sukadeva Goswami also was put in that category of impersonalist. His father was Vyasadeva.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Menam Kanvandam Maravindadalayataksham Bharavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Andani Yasa Sakalen Kriya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham
Namago Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Puttalaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namade Namaste, Hachwati Deve, Kovani Pachar, Neke, Sisha, Juniorati, Masyachare, Charade. Jaya Shri Krishna Jai Tana Prabhu Nijan Nana Shidweta Karana Siva Sari No Rata Brenda Krishna Chaitanya Krishna Nairana Prabhu Nityananda Vaita Gurada Siva Sadi No Ratu Brenda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Vaita Gurada Siva Sadi No Ratu Brenda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Jai Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Goloka na 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 na, Goloka na na, Rathe. Na, Goloka na na na, Goloka na na, Rathe. Radhe, nay, Radhe. Na, Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Om Vishnupad. Jai, Shrimati Lassi Devi ki Jai. All glories Shri Guru and Gauranga Shilvamubadi.
Harinam Sankirtan today, Nagar Sankirtan. Come for a walk in the park and chant Hare Krishna as you're walking along and giving everyone a chance to taste the holy names. 11:30, we'll be meeting at Gold Park. Hare Krishna. Chaitodarpanam janam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam shreya kairavya chandrakavitaranam vidyavadu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipanam pranamrita swadanam sarvatmasnapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. I always like how you dress the deities. Haranam haran Bhaktis tatrapitani amita smaranena kala etadrishita vakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva midrishami hajjanina nuraga trinadapi sunichena tarorapi suhishuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Budao Kripayata Vabada Pankaja Stita Duli Sajashim Vachintaya Nayanam Gavarshu Daraya Varanam Gad Gurudaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahaneva Vishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Bravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahame Ashlishava Padamritam Anastumam Adarshanam marmahata karotuva yatatatava vidadatu lampato mat prananatastusa evanapara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate, I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, Feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present there before me. He is completely free to anything and everything, for he is always my Lord, birth after birth. Shri Ki Joy.